Good morning. It's the start of a new week and a new walkie-talkie. And today we're talking about licensing with games and why I have issue with how it's worked or currently works. So that's what we're going to get into on today's walk. Now, it's not a simple and straightforward thing, but it could be a lot easier than what it is. I hope. We have a vehicle. They're doing more cleaning. Wonderful. This is going to be fun. Going backwards. It's not the way forwards. Don't know how that's working, but okay. We got around it. I think they're trying to do this. Oh my god. We'll have to cut this. I shall be back in a moment. And we're back. Whole load of kids being taken into the school. Not had that before. Interesting. Anyway, so I know it's not a simple and straightforward subject. I am aware of that. But I think things could be done better some way or another. I think it could be done better. That will enable old games that were based on licensed stuff like movies and even arcade games, cartoons and so on. I think it can be handled better than how it is currently, because we're losing a lot of retro games to license issues. When you see these compilations come out, they've always got the same bundle of games from the same software companies, and it gets boring because a lot of these weren't the most classic games or the most memorable games that came out at the time. And I think it's a little bit unfair to put no too fine a point on it. I'll go into that when, of course, we get into the park and we start going into a little bit more detail. So yeah. Right. So I'll call it there till we get in the park. Carry on our natter. And yeah, let's stop off on my way home today and get me food as well. But anyway, catch you then. Well, if you look at the weather, massively changeable. It'll be like this now, and then it could just be pitch black and pouring down with rain in a bit, because it's nutty. Anyhow, video games, licenses, and how annoying they can be. You know, I mentioned it while I was walking on the lane getting here. The annoyance of some of these compilations that just have the same pool of games on every single one. They always seem to be Hewson or Thalamus games. And some of them are great, but there's the vast majority of great games are not covered. And the majority of this is down to licensing. Now, this doesn't just affect games that were based off other media that needed a license. So, you know, likes of Platoon, RoboCop, The Untouchables, great games like those that were on the movie licenses. Not just those games, but I'm talking about just like arcade games. You know, the various software house may have got the rights to do the arcade version. And then you've got the further issue of companies that have been acquired by others, and or companies which have gone out of business and their IP has been auctioned off, and various other companies have gone out there and bought that IP. So the inventory of a company, let's say like Ocean, although they were bought out by Infogrames, I believe, which in turn was merged into Atari. I don't know if Infogrames were bought out by Atari or whether they just changed their name to Atari. I can't remember. Either way, you have that minefield there of the licenses for even original games that weren't based on movies or arcade games. These things just tend to disappear into a black hole. And it sucks, because those great games are just lost to the mists of time. And as I say, the sort of countless releases of these retro games, be it via compilation or via the like mini consoles, all of that, it's always the same. Now, some of these are great games, but it's very limiting. And the only way that you can use these devices, you know, such as your C64 Mini, even the C64 Ultimate, you know, your Amiga 1200, your Amiga 1200 500 Mini. You know, the only legal way you can play games that don't come pre-installed on that, in other words, ROMs that you've downloaded, is as if you actually own the physical media itself from back in the day. So, you know, if I wanted to download the ROM of RoboCop, if I've still got the original RoboCop game, then that's okay. If you don't, then it's not, from a legal perspective. And that sucks. Because how many people, after all these years, are still going to have the original discs or cassettes or cartridges of games from the 8-bit era? Now, of course, you could buy them off eBay and then download the ROM. But how many people are actually doing that? And I think that there's easy money on the table here that can be gotten. But the first thing that needs to happen is the resolution of this license issue. Now, I've seen a great many games sort of lost in this void. On PC, there was a couple of games that were really good, called No One Lives Forever. You can't get them legitimately. That's stuck in some weird thing between Fox, who Disney now own, and I believe, was it Monolith? Oh my god. Okay, let's get around this. I believe that's the issue. They can't make their mind up who actually owns the right. Usually it would be the publisher. I think it's Monolith, but I'm not too sure. But I know the game was definitely Fox. But this seems to be a dispute between, I think, did Monolith become Warner? God, that's only become more complex now, hasn't it? They've become embroiled in Netflix. Bloody hell. Well, I don't think we can expect any kind of comfortable resolution on that front in any event. It's not great, that's for certain. And we're missing out. We're missing out. And the weird thing is, that why do none of these companies seemingly want to make money? I don't get that. So let's just rewind a little bit. I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's look at the instance of releasing, you release a game. So let's look at Outrun, which the licensed part of that game was the Ferrari Testarossa, I believe it was. And the fact that because the game has that, the license is somewhat expired, and therefore whenever you get the Sega Mega Drive collection stuff, it's not on there. Weirdly enough, it did appear on the Nintendo Switch store, because I've got it on the Switch, but I don't know if it's still available on there. So I don't know. So it seems somewhat strange to me why the license issue can't be resolved. And again, I've already said about the movies, license issues for the movies not being resolved. It's very much, it's a curious one, for certain. It's a curious one. Now, there's a solution to this. A license should be attached to a game. It shouldn't be done for a period of time. It should be attached to a game. So, for example, if you've got the license to make a RoboCop game, which Ocean did in the past, then that license should be attached to that game. It should not be attached to a period of time. Just the game. That way, the game can be reissued down the years without fear of the license expiring. What I think happens now, and what has happened, is there's a license for a period of time rather than rather than it be, like I say, period of time, make it for the individual product, and then it's attached permanently to that one product. So let's just say the RoboCop game that came out, let's say 1988, the license should be attached to that game and that game only. Not for a period of time. There should be no lapse. So if somebody wants to stick that game on a compilation, as long as they have the rights to do it from whoever owns the game, the rights to the game, so in that case, it would be whoever bought Ocean's catalogue, which I believe these days is Atari that owns it. Atari would then be free to put these games out there. They would be free to do that. They wouldn't be held up to having to renegotiate the license with whoever owns the rights to the movie series. The same with Platoon. And that would also imply to in-game music as well. As long as that music is being used for that game, there should be no need to have to renegotiate licenses because it's been paid for already for that game. Now, there are going to be some people out there that might not grasp what I'm saying, and I want to make it clear. I'm not talking about any game that comes after a sequel or a from the ground up remake, that is completely different. I'm talking about if you remaster the game to work on new systems, then you should be covered okay. As long as it's not a complete and utter remake, you should be fine. So that's where I'm coming from with it. I don't think that it should be an issue. It'll be an issue, obviously, for the license holders because, as usual, they get greedy. But that's because they're short-sighted. You see, we've got the situation now with Guardians of the Galaxy, the film. The license for the soundtrack has expired. And so they've now had to, if you watch the film on Disney Plus, that soundtrack is now changed. The intro song is different than the one that was carefully selected for the movie for when it was launched. That soundtrack was selected specifically. That song was selected specifically. But because the license expired and Disney didn't renew it, they've had to replace it, which is nonsense. It's nonsense. That should not ever happen. It's no, you had the money, that stays in the movie forever. That's it. Now, if they went and remade Guardians of the Galaxy, that's a different thing. But that film should not be subject to alteration, especially with something to do with the soundtrack. That shouldn't be a thing, ever. And the fact that it is shows you how stupid and broken the system is. And this is why it applies to video games. One of the reasons that no doubt EA would say why the PC version of Road Rash is delisted and you can't get it is because of the band's music that was signed to A&M Records. So you've got the likes of Soundgarden, is it Swerve Diver or Driver? God, I can't remember. But bands like that, they were all signed to that group, to that label, and that they provided the soundtrack for the intro to that game. And no doubt that license has now expired. And that'll be why they'll say you can't get it. I know I did mention it, well fine, just change the soundtrack out or renegotiate the license, but this shouldn't be the case. It shouldn't be the issue. That should be attached to that product forever. Now, again, let me be clear. If they remade it, so it's a completely different game, which is what a remake is, it's a different game. Remaster isn't. Remaster is making improvements to increase compatibility, but it's still the same game. Remake is where you'd make it from scratch, as if you're making an entirely new game. Now, it can be identical, same levels, same mechanics in terms of gameplay mechanics, but it's still a different game. But that's my point. And then you avoid this. But these companies who hold these licenses, they just want to grab more money. Oh, we'll only give you the license for so long. Okay, we're not interested. If the games industry was unified on this, they could just turn around and say, nah, no, we're not. Think about how many people went and bought records for the bands that were in that Road Rash game, especially the time when it came out, which was in the grunge era. and they were grunge acts. How many people heard songs on there? I know I did. I went and bought an album. And I can't be the only one. So the door was swinging both ways on that one. They got the money for the license, but they were also getting money from people who were hearing the songs on there and went and bought the records. Guess what? That still applies today. It doesn't matter that it was 20 years ago or 21 years ago, whenever it was. It doesn't matter. People will hear a really good song and they'll want it. They want to play it in the car, they'll want to play it, I was going to say on the Walkman, but their iPod or their phones or whatever. You know, when they go out for a walk, or go to the gym, or go for a drive. They like the song, so they want it, so they go and they buy it. Whether they buy it as a download, whether they go and buy the album with it on a CD, whatever. That's how it works. I'm not going back through that puddle that way. And it's so short-sighted from these companies. Because they want that hit. They want that quick blast of input of cash. These people making those decisions at companies that, well, I just don't think they're very good at what they do. Which is why a lot of these companies ultimately go out of business. They get paid a lot of money, but they don't really grasp human nature. They can't get the head around the fact that long-term investment will bring security. Short-term investment will bring short-term security perhaps, but long-term instability. People that play the long game ultimately prevail. They go, well, the license expired, so we want more money now. And game companies are just not going to play ball. I don't think the movie industry is. I mean, let's be honest, Disney did have the money, and do have the money, to renew that license for Guardians of the Galaxy, but in fairness to them, you know, and in credit to them, they said, no, we're not. Get lost. And I'm not a fan of Disney, but on this I completely support them. They're right to tell them to get lost. They're right to tell them to do one, that they're not getting any more money. They've had it. And how many people went and bought that record? How many people downloaded it on iTunes? You know? How many people sought it out and bought it? Maybe people liked the group, liked the music, and went and bought albums and not just one-off singles or whatever. And as long as that film was out, in 10 years' time, 15 years' time, 30 years' time, that song is still there. People will hear that song, go, hey, I like that. Everybody's happy. But no, short-termism. It'll kill any company. This is the problem right now. This is what's going wrong. And it's too much. You've got arcade games as well. There was a great arcade game, I think it was Konami, that created it, which was based on the Aliens movie. And it was a brilliant arcade game. Really good. And when Konami did their arcade collection that they released on the, across various formats, it was missing. Because they didn't have the license, because it was Alien, the Alien franchise. That was a superb arcade game. It was really good. Lost because of licensing. Why? Fox had the money for that. And I think this collection come out maybe before Disney acquired Fox. Or maybe even around that time, but it shouldn't have made any difference. The license had already been paid. Nobody's remaking the game. You're just re-releasing it. Now Disney are not getting any more money, or Fox. They're not getting any more money from that arcade. It's dead. How many of them are, even if you went to a retro arcade place, they're not getting any money. They're not getting anything for it. But what about the people that would have been playing it on the Switch that never played it before? What about those people? And you go, oh, this is based on a movie called Aliens. Might check that out. Oh wow, that film was great. I'm going to buy it. And oh wait, there were more in the series? Let me buy them. That's what would happen. It doesn't matter whether it's on a grand scale or not. It's more sales, isn't it? It's more sales. Going back through them puddles again around there. But yeah, they get nothing. Absolutely zero. And they could have had a few more sales to their movies. Right now they're getting nothing. Not good.
Morning.
Well, that's the mindset. That's the mindset. They are not plugged in to how people work. It's why they end up in financial trouble. They're trying to scrimp money. They're shaking down the cushions on the sofa, looking for loose change. Well, there's easy money right in front of them on the table, if they're prepared to look. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. say I would change it. Just that simple change in the licensing law, that if it's for a specific product, it's attached to that product indefinitely. So I hope it was clear what I meant by that. But anyway, that'll do, I think, for this one. Got to get some stuff. As usual, this place is getting busy. So, a bit of sunrise over there. I will catch you all later. Have a good day, and I'll see you soon.